You spend hours studying, and by tomorrow, most of it is gone. But in Japan, students memorize over 2,000 characters and remember them for life. What's their secret? You've probably had this experience before. You spend an entire evening studying. You close the book feeling accomplished. And the next morning, it feels like your brain hit the delete button. It's not laziness. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's simply how memory works. The brain prioritizes what feels important and discards the rest. Now, here's the twist. In Japan, students are expected to memorize thousands of kanji characters before graduating high school. Not just recognize them, but write them, pronounce them, and use them in different contexts. Imagine remembering over 2,000 tiny puzzles, each with multiple meanings, and not forgetting them years later. So, the question is, how do they do it? Do they study harder than everyone else? Do they spend every free moment buried in textbooks? Not exactly. The real secret is that Japanese students don't just study. They follow a routine that aligns with how the brain actually remembers. It's a rhythm, not a grind. And in this video, we're going to break it down into simple steps you can copy into your own life, no matter what you're trying to learn. Because if they can remember thousands of symbols for life, imagine what you could do with your exams, your job, or even a new language. Most students think learning begins when they sit down at their desk. But in Japan, the preparation starts much earlier, sometimes the moment they wake up. Why? Because the brain isn't a machine you can just switch on. It's more like soil. If you plant seeds in dry, unfed ground, nothing grows. But if you water it, warm it, and give it light, suddenly everything sticks. So here's how Japanese students water the soil of the brain in the morning. Before the books even open, many Japanese students step outside. Even just a short walk to school or stretching near a window exposes their brain to natural light. That sunlight is a signal. Wake up, it's time to focus. Scientifically, it boosts cortisol at the right time of day and resets the circadian rhythm, which means sharper memory throughout the morning. Some even do light exercise, not a workout, just enough to get the blood flowing. And studies confirm even 10 minutes of gentle movement increases memory recall by 20%. Instead of jumping straight into new material, Japanese students often begin by quickly revising what they studied yesterday. Not rereading, not highlighting, but recalling, testing themselves before moving forward. It's the opposite of what most students do in the West. We obsess over input, reading more, watching more, adding more. In Japan, they value output, pulling knowledge from the brain. And here's the genius part. By recalling yesterday's knowledge first thing in the morning, the brain strengthens those pathways right before adding new ones. This part surprises a lot of people. Japanese culture values quiet rituals, like pouring tea slowly, arranging your desk neatly, breathing before beginning. It may seem small, but rituals tell the brain this moment matters. That sense of importance is what shifts memory from short-term to long-term storage. So the Japanese morning routine isn't about rushing, it's about aligning light, movement, recall, stillness. The perfect soil for planting knowledge. And only after that, they dive into serious study. Here's a mistake many students make. They treat the afternoon like a marathon. Endless hours of cramming, fueled by caffeine and panic. But in Japan, students follow a very different rhythm. They don't try to fight the brain. They study with the brain. And the key, strategic blocks of effort. Instead of sitting for 3 or 4 hours, Japanese students often work in concentrated intervals. Think 40 minutes of focus, 10 minutes of rest. This cycle mirrors the brain's natural rhythm. Periods of peak attention followed by dips. During those dips, they don't push harder, they pause. A short walk, stretching, even just looking out the window. It feels unproductive, but it's the reset that keeps memory strong. And here's the science. When you take a break right after learning, your hippocampus is still replaying that knowledge in the background. So while you think you're resting, your brain is actually organising. Instead of rereading the same chapter endlessly, Japanese students revisit knowledge at carefully timed intervals. This is called spaced repetition. Day 1, learn it. Day 2, recall it. Day 4, recall again. Day 7, recall again. Each time the memory gets sharper, like sharpening a blade. By the end of a month, that knowledge is carved so deeply it's almost impossible to forget. And here's what's fascinating. This doesn't take more time. It actually takes less. Because you're no longer wasting hours rereading things your brain has already tuned out. Here's something subtle but powerful. In the afternoon, Japanese students avoid the heavy, greasy lunches that cause a food coma. Meals are lighter, often with rice, vegetables, and fish. Foods that provide energy without spiking and crashing blood sugar. Why does that matter? Because focus isn't just about willpower, it's biology. A steady mind comes from a steady body. Another cultural habit sneaks in here. Even in crowded classrooms, students sometimes practice tiny acts of mindfulness. A deep breath, adjusting posture, noticing silence. These micro pauses help reset attention and prevent mental fatigue. Western students try to push through exhaustion. Japanese students step back, reset, and return sharper. So the Japanese afternoon isn't about doing more, it's about doing smarter. Study in bursts, review at intervals. Eat for clarity, not for crash. And reset your mind before it breaks. That's how they stay consistent day after day, and why their knowledge doesn't vanish by exam day. Most students think the day ends when they close their books, but in Japan, the night is just as important as the study itself. Why? Because that's when the brain decides what stays and what gets deleted. Instead of scrolling endlessly before bed, Japanese students often do a quick, light review of what they learned that day. Not hours of study, just 10 minutes. Why so short? Because reviewing right before sleep sends a signal to the brain. This information matters. During the night, the hippocampus, your brain's memory centre, replays the things you touched most recently. That's how short-term knowledge becomes long-term memory. Think of it like saving a file on your computer. If you don't hit save, the system crashes and the file disappears. That's what happens when you study but don't review before bed. Here's something science has proven again and again. Deep sleep is the ultimate study hack. While you sleep, your brain literally reorganises knowledge, throwing away the noise and strengthening the important signals. But here's the catch. This only happens in the deeper stages of sleep. That's why Japanese students pay attention to sleep hygiene. Lights dimmed, screens off an hour before bed. A calm routine instead of chaos. Because every late-night scroll, every extra coffee, every just one more episode steals from the very memory you've been working all day to build. The Japanese principle of Kaizen, small, steady improvement, doesn't stop in the afternoon. Many students set a micro goal before sleep. One sentence written in a journal. One flashcard recalled. one kanji practiced. It's not about volume, it's about rhythm. A day that ends with progress, no matter how small, creates momentum for tomorrow. There's a word in Japan, ma. It means the space between, the pause, the silence. At night, students often embrace a few minutes of quiet. No rushing, no noise, just stillness before sleep. This isn't wasted time. It's the bridge that allows the mind to shift from stimulation into restoration. And when the body rests, the mind remembers. Western students often live in cycles of extremes, late-night cramming, to burned-out mornings, to drowsy afternoons, to more cramming. But Japanese students, through centuries of culture and habit, learned a truth we often ignore. It's not the intensity of one study session that makes you great. It's the rhythm of daily repetition. Day by day, step by step, small reviews, light evenings, deep rest. And the result? Not just better grades, but knowledge that sticks for life. So, the Japanese night isn't about working harder. It's about working with biology. Review lightly, sleep deeply, end with calm, and let your brain do the rest. Because the secret isn't just in how you study, it's in how you end the day. So here's the truth. The Japanese students you admire aren't superhuman. They don't have bigger brains, secret IQ levels, or magical powers. What they have is rhythm. Morning isn't rushed, it's aligned. Afternoon isn't heavy, it's structured. Evening isn't wasted, it's sealed. Night isn't chaotic, it's restorative. And when you stack these small habits, something extraordinary happens. Knowledge doesn't just visit your mind for a test. It lives there. It becomes part of you. Think about this.
Every time you said, "I'm just not a morning person," or "I'll never remember this stuff," what if you were wrong? What if it wasn't you, but the method? Because the Japanese way proves one thing: you don't need more hours, you need better rhythm. Here's the invitation. Tomorrow morning, try just one piece of this routine. Not the whole system, not perfection, just one small step. Morning. Maybe it's 2 minutes of movement. Maybe it's one flashcard review. Maybe it's turning off your screen 30 minutes earlier tonight. Do it once. Feel the difference and then let rhythm do its work. I can tell you this: no supplement, no app, no last-minute cram session has ever come close to the clarity and focus this routine gives. It's simple, it's human, and it works. If this video sparks something in you, don't just leave it here. Join this journey. Hit subscribe. Share this with a friend who's struggling. And let's rebuild the way we learn together. Because the future doesn't belong to those who study harder. It belongs to those who study smarter. And that can be you. Starting tonight.